Hey, Lori. Oh, you were popping right on screen. I wasn't sure if something was going to pop in between. How are you doing today, Lori?
I'm great, thanks. What about you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How long have you been in the API community, and what's your favorite part about this, I would say, unique community? And if you want to
I've
share
been,
your slides, please, while you share your slides.
yeah, sure. I've been working as a developer for 15 years now, so always been either consuming or producing APIs. And I think what I love the most about this community is the willing to share the knowledge and also the constant, urge to improve our methodologies and knowledge.
Okay, so continuous learning, that's a very good,
Yeah.
it's a very worthy attribute to any community. So, Lori, take it away on using a design first approach as your superpower for your applications. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. So I'm a full stack developer. I'm working at Gravitee. Gravitee is providing an open source API platform. And today we are going to talk about how using a design first approach might help you superpower your applications. So in this presentation, I'm going to talk about the rise of API first. I'll also explain the difference between API first and API design first. We'll see the benefits of the design first approach, and at the end of the session, I'll do a quick demo of what designing an API with the design first approach might look like. So in the 2020 State of the API survey, Postman questioned over 30,000 professionals of the API industry, developers, testers, executive, and others about embracing the API first strategy. The result of this is that over 60% of the respondents rated their adoption between 5, we are somewhat API first, to 10, we are fully API first. But even if the majority of industry members are adopting this strategy, the term API first might have different definitions. It can be used to refer to developing APIs before developing applications or integrations, or defining and designing APIs and schema before beginning development. So those two definitions show that there are two strategies regarding API implementation. The first one is the traditional one, it's the code first approach. So in this methodology, project will start by actually coding the API, and then the API documentation is generated from the code, most of the time thanks to some tooling in the code base like annotations to automatically generate API documentation from the implementation. Now, with the second strategy, the API design first approach, the API specification is derived or generated directly from the design and not the code. And the technical team will start writing code after design is accepted. So let's walk through an example of how an API lifecycle would look like using the design first approach and why it's so powerful. So when using an API design first approach for any new business input or feature, the project stakeholders would iterate on the design to agree on the API specifications. Business representative would sit together with product owners and technical members of the team to define what the API will look like. Some team even involve customers at that stage to validate the design. And after a few iterations, when the design is approved, we will then be able to provide the API documentation. And from this documentation, it is possible to generate some mocks and some code steps for server-side, for server implementation or client SDKs that can be used in the front-end application. And even the mocks also can be used to generate some automated testing. So let's see in details what are the benefits of this approach. The first advantage of design first approach is to improve the communication with all the project stakeholders, from business members to technical members or even customers, in order to get a rapid feedback loop and be able to iterate quickly over the API definition. By shortening the feedback loop and making work more visible, teams are able to mitigate the risks and somehow reduce costs. And if you think about it, it's the kind of benefits of the agile methodology compared to the V cycle, but extended to the design phase. Another advantage of this approach is that the APIs will be more compliant to the client needs and more product driven, instead of having APIs that stick to the development constraints like data storage or authentications and permissions. So this will provide a better developer experience for whom develops the API or for the API consumers, being internal developers or your customers. And as we've seen in the previous slide, this lifecycle helps drive parallel development by being able to start both backend and front-end development at the same time, and even by providing some mocks that can allow to develop the automated test right away. Last but not least, the talk just before was a perfect introduction for that. It helps enforcing governance and security because you can define some global settings and best practices, like for instance, naming conventions or case configuration. You can also define default responses depending on the status code or security headers, authentication required on the APIs. There are some tools that apply checks on the API specifications. Just like you use linters on your source code, you can use those tools to enforce quality rules on your APIs. So we've seen the benefits of using the design-first approach when building API. There are multiple formats to define API specification. I think the most used one is the Open API specifications, but you can also use REST API modeling language, RAML, or most recently, async API for event-driven applications. And as you see from those screenshots, in any case, the vast majority of those tools are not very, let's say, business-friendly, and designing APIs requires a degree of technical knowledge, like being able to read or write some YAML or JSON. We already mentioned earlier the use of API linters to enforce some quality rules. This also might not be so easy for non-technical users. There are also some options available for non-so-technical users to work with API design first. At Gravitee, we are working on an API designer tool based on a visual mind map representation of the API, enabling to collaborate with any stakeholders in a friendly way. So this tool will unlock the design first advantages that we stated before, like improving developer experience, communication with all project stakeholders, rapid feedback loop, with an intuitive and easy to use tool with a visual design and some nice functionalities. So from this visualization, we'll be able to generate standard Open API specifications in real time and to define some company-wide best practices or security policies. So now is the demo time. We'll go through this tool I just showed a screenshot here and see how we can design a TV shows API from this tool. So let's start the demo. I'm using this to create a new API. So I will create a TV shows API. So I will enable the operations on this API to be able to query or update this. So a TV show would have an ID. I will provide an example for this one. Second, for TV show, we'll define a title. For instance, we can use Squid Game. A TV show can have a channel where the TV show is broadcasted. So for this one, it would be Netflix. And we can define that a TV show has a list of seasons. So the seasons of a TV show would be a list, obviously. And I will make it a subpath, and I will enable the operations on this subpath. What you see here is as I'm building my model, I'm getting in real time the corresponding OpenAPI specification with all the examples I provided. So let's continue building the model. A season would have an ID, a number, that would be a number. And season would have list of episodes, which is also a list, and that I will also make a subpath. I'm also enabling the operations so that you can see here that I have my operations on the episodes. Just finished the episode model. I will have an ID, number. So for instance, for this one, you say let's 01, the title, red light, green light. So I will stop here for the model definition. I will not go through all the options here because I will not have enough time for the demonstration, but if you are interested in it, you can get in touch with me later on. So when I'm happy with this model building, I can either download it from here. So I will get a standard JSON file, OpenAPI JSON file. That is quite difficult to read this way. But I can also decide to deploy it right away on my API management, on my Gravitee API management. There are several ways of deploying an API. I will go for the published API because I want to be able to show you the whole range of what we can provide with an API definition. So I'm pushing the model right now. It has been successfully pushed. And now if I log in to my API management system, I will just see my API here. It's published and it's running. So let's browse a little bit this API so we can see that this API has been pushed with some documentation that corresponds to the Swagger definition I just created before with my API designer. Something interesting is that we've also defined for this API a series of mocks on all the methods that can be called on the API. I've defined, the system automatically defined some mocks to my API and populated the results of these mocks with the examples I selected before in my API design phase. So I can see here for the episodes that I have my red light, green light example I provided before. And this is it for the API management system. So this is at least actually already a good step because we have an API that is populated and with documentation and some mock data for calling the API. But this API management system might be something internal where if your API consumers are customers, they might be external and you don't want to let them enter this API management system. So at Gravitee, we also provide something called the API portal, where our API consumers are able to browse and discover APIs. So here I can see that my TV shows API was also right away published here. So I can view the API from here, browse the documentation, just always the same documentation that was built with the API designer before. And here in the general information, I also have the link to my API. So this is the link that helps me get the result of the mocks that were defined in the policies. So as you can see, if I call my API here, I will get the results directly from here. So this is it for the demonstration. This tool I just show you is actually currently under development. So if you're interested in this tool, you can simply subscribe for the newsletter. on the Gravitee website, and so in order to be notified when it's ready to be used.
Thank you so much, Lorie. That was great. Thank you, and very efficient. So we had a question asked and answered in the chat, but I think it's better to share with everyone and you can answer it as well. But the question from Benjamin is, does the Gravitee ecosystem integrate with Azure or Apigee-based API gateway?
Yeah, sure. And I think my colleagues just answered on
But
the
for
on the
those that are
chat.
just watching the video, please answer it yourself for those just watching the video.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, it can be integrated. I'm not sure I understand actually the question, because you can use Gravitee in front of any API, not depending on the hosting. So
So it doesn't matter at all. It's just
yeah.
It works that way. And do you have any users that are doing that yet?
I think Nico or you would be best than me to answer that question, because I'm actually a developer at Gravitee, so I'm not really in the client relationship.
So why did you want to work on a company that is democratizing API development? What is important about that, or what makes this an important organization?
The thing I like the most about Gravitee is that we are providing an open source product, meaning that it really helps people drive their attention to API management, and we have a quite complete platform with the product for API management, but also for access management. So I think for users that just start manipulating API management, it's really a great tool.
When you talk about democratizing in that a lot more people can use it, what level of technical prowess do they need?
So our products have a UI that helps people discover the API management capabilities with the policies, everything you can set with the plans to protect your APIs and so on. But then for advanced users, everything that can be done through the UI is also accessible through an API, so you can automate everything with CI/CD processes and so on.
Okay. So you need some technical prowess, but it brings less technical people on board into the API process, which really API is the Internet of Things. API is everything. Yes. Exactly. There was a question in the chat of, is there any plan to define a workflow in Gravitee?
So what kind of workflow actually?
That is a great question. If you're there, can you please answer that?
Maybe with some.
Yeah. But in the meantime, what type of workflow is existing right now, or maybe also templatizing it?
So yeah, when you define APIs through API management, when you build your APIs through API management, you can add some policies on your API. So you have some plans in order to check authentication or not. You can set any policy you want. We have some policy for rate limit, also for throttling. So anything can be built. And also we have an extensible plugin system that enables everyone to develop their own policy, basically.
Okay, great. No, that sounds really interesting. You have a lot of positive feedback in the chat that you'll read later, but that people are really enjoying this graphical approach to designing APIs. So of course, the obvious question is there a date you think for the public availability of it?
Yeah, it could be available beginning of next year.
Okay. So at this point, nobody should be working that hard anyway. So it's better to wait till next year. Okay. Thank you so much, Lorie. I think that was super interesting. And you have a lot of new fans signing up to the newsletter to try it out. So that's great. Thank you so much. And have a great day, Lorie.
Thank you too. Bye-bye.